Aphorisms 1 to 44 of Book 1 of the New Organon. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Alan Shaw. The New Organon by Francis Bacon. Translated by James Spedding, Robert Leslie Ellis, and Douglas Denon Heath. Aphorisms 1 to 44 of Book 1. Aphorism 1. Man, being the servant and interpreter of nature, can do and understand so much and so much only, as he has observed in fact or in thought of the course of nature. Beyond this he neither knows anything nor can do anything. Aphorism 2. Neither the naked hand nor the understanding left to itself can effect much. It is by instruments and helps that the work is done, which are as much wanted for the understanding as for the hand. And as the instruments of the hand either give motion or guide it, so the instruments of the mind supply either suggestions for the understanding or cautions. Aphorism 3. Human knowledge and human power meet in one, for where the cause is not known the effect cannot be produced. Nature to be commanded must be obeyed, and that which in contemplation is as the cause is in operation as the rule. Aphorism 4. Toward the effecting of works, all that man can do is to put together or put asunder natural bodies. The rest is done by nature working within. Aphorism 5. The study of nature with a view to works is engaged in by the mechanic, the mathematician, the physician, the alchemist, and the magician, but by all, as things now are, with slight endeavor and scanty success. Aphorism 6. It would be an unsound fancy and self-contradictory to expect that things which have never yet been done can be done except by means which have never yet been tried. Aphorism 7. The productions of the mind and hand seem very numerous in books and manufactures, but all this variety lies in an exquisite subtlety in derivations from a few things already known, not in the number of axioms. Aphorism 8. Moreover, the works already known are due to chance and experiment rather than to sciences, for the sciences we now possess are merely systems for the nice ordering and setting forth of things already invented, not methods of invention or directions for new works. Aphorism 9. The cause and root of nearly all evils in the sciences is this, that while we falsely admire and extol the powers of the human mind, we neglect to seek for its true helps. Aphorism 10. The subtlety of nature is greater many times over than the subtlety of the senses and understanding, so that all those specious meditations, speculations, and glosses in which men indulge are quite from the purpose, only there is no one by to observe it. Aphorism 11. As the sciences which we now have do not help us in finding out new works, so neither does the logic which we now have help us in finding out new sciences. Aphorism 12. The logic now in use serves rather to fix and give stability to the errors which have their foundation in commonly received notions, than to help the search after truth, so it does more harm than good. Aphorism 13. The syllogism is not applied to the first principles of sciences, and is applied in vain to intermediate axioms, being no match for the subtlety of nature. It commands assent, therefore, to the proposition, but does not take hold of the thing. Aphorism 14. The syllogism consists of propositions. Propositions consist of words. Words are symbols of notions. Therefore, if the notions themselves, which is the root of the matter, are confused and over hastily abstracted from the facts, there can be no firmness in the superstructure. Our only hope, therefore, lies in a true induction. Aphorism 15. There is no soundness in our notions, whether logical or physical. Substance, quality, action, passion, essence itself are not sound notions. Much less are heavy, light, dense, rare, moist, dry, generation, corruption, attraction, repulsion, element, matter, form, and the like, but all are fantastical and ill-defined. Aphorism 16. Our notions of less general species, as man, dog, dove, and of the immediate perceptions of the sense, as hot, cold, black, white, do not materially mislead us, yet even these are sometimes confused by the flux and alteration of matter and the mixing of one thing with another. All the others which men have hitherto adopted are but wanderings, not being abstracted and formed from things by proper methods. Aphorism 17. Nor is there less of willfulness and wandering in the construction of axioms than in the formation of notions. not accepting even those very principles which are obtained by common induction, but much more in the axioms and lower propositions educed by the syllogism. Aphorism 18. The discoveries which have hitherto been made in the sciences are such as lie close to vulgar notions, scarcely beneath the surface. In order to penetrate into the inner and further recesses of nature, it is necessary that both notions and axioms be derived from things by a more sure and guarded way, and that a method of intellectual operation be introduced altogether better and more certain. Aphorism 19. There are and can be only two ways of searching into and discovering truth. The one flies from the senses and particulars to the most general axioms, and from these principles, the truth of which it takes for settled and immovable, proceeds to judgment and to the discovery of middle axioms. And this way is now in fashion. The other derives axioms from the senses and particulars, rising by a gradual and unbroken ascent, so that it arrives at the most general axioms last of all. This is the true way, but as yet untried. Aphorism 20. The understanding left to itself takes the same course, namely the former, which it takes in accordance with logical order. For the mind longs to spring up to positions of higher generality, that it may find rest there, and so after a little while wearies of experiment. But this evil is increased by logic, because of the order and solemnity of its disputations. Aphorism 21. The understanding left to itself, in a sober, patient, and grave mind, especially if it be not hindered by received doctrines, tries a little that other way, which is the right one, but with little progress, since the understanding, unless directed and assisted, is a thing unequal and quite unfit to contend with the obscurity of things. Aphorism 22. Both ways set out from the senses and particulars, and rest in the highest generalities, but the difference between them is infinite. For the one just glances at experiment and particulars in passing, the other dwells duly and orderly among them. The one, again, begins at once by establishing certain abstract and useless generalities. The other rises by gradual steps to that which is prior and better known in the order of nature. Aphorism 23. There is a great difference between the idols of the human mind and the ideas of the divine, that is to say, between certain empty dogmas and the true signatures and marks set upon the works of creation as they are found in nature. Aphorism 24. It cannot be that axioms established by argumentation should avail for the discovery of new works, since the subtlety of nature is greater many times over than the subtlety of argument. But axioms duly and orderly formed from particulars easily discover the way to new particulars, and thus render sciences active. Aphorism 25. The axioms now in use, having been suggested by a scanty and manipular experience and a few particulars of most general occurrence, are made for the most part just large enough to fit and take these in, and therefore it is no wonder if they do not lead to new particulars. And if some opposite instance, not observed or not known before, chance to come in the way, the axiom is rescued and preserved by some frivolous distinction, whereas the truer course would be to correct the axiom itself. Aphorism 26. The conclusions of human reason as ordinarily applied in matters of nature, I call for the sake of distinction anticipations of nature, as a thing rash or premature. That reason which is elicited from facts by a just and methodical process I call interpretation of nature. Aphorism 27. Anticipations are a ground sufficiently firm for consent, for even if men went mad all after the same fashion, they might agree one with another well enough. Aphorism 28. For the winning of assent, indeed, anticipations are far more powerful than interpretations, because being collected from a few instances, and those for the most part of familiar occurrence, they straightway touch the understanding and fill the imagination, whereas interpretations, on the other hand, being gathered here and there from very various and widely dispersed facts, cannot suddenly strike the understanding, and therefore they must needs, in respect of the opinions of the time, seem harsh and out of tune, much as the mysteries of faith do. Aphorism 29. In sciences founded on opinions and dogmas, the use of anticipations and logic is good, for in them the object is to command assent to the proposition, not to master the thing. Aphorism 30. Though all the wits of all the ages should meet together and combine and transmit their labors, yet will no great progress ever be made in science by means of anticipations, because radical errors in the first concoction of the mind are not to be cured by the excellence of functions and subsequent remedies. Aphorism 31. It is idle to expect any great advancement in science from the superinducing and engrafting of new things upon old. We must begin anew from the very foundations, unless we would revolve forever in a circle with mean and contemptible progress. Aphorism 32. The honor of the ancient authors, and indeed of all, remains untouched, since the comparison I challenge is not of wits or faculties, but of ways and methods, and the part I take upon myself is not that of a judge, but of a guide. Aphorism 33. This must be plainly avowed. No judgment can be rightly formed either of my method or of the discoveries to which it leads by means of anticipations, that is to say, of the reasoning which is now in use, since I cannot be called on to abide by the sentence of a tribunal which is itself on trial. Aphorism 34. Even to deliver and explain what I bring forward is no easy matter, for things in themselves new will yet be apprehended with reference to what is old. Aphorism 35. It was said by Borgia of the expedition of the French into Italy, that they came with chalk in their hands to mark out their lodgings, not with arms to force their way in. I in like manner would have my doctrine enter quietly into the minds that are fit and capable of receiving it. For confutations cannot be employed when the difference is upon first principles and very notions, and even upon forms of demonstration. Aphorism 36. One method of delivery alone remains to us, which is simply this. We must lead men to the particulars themselves, and their series and order, while men on their side must force themselves for a while to lay their notions by, and begin to familiarize themselves with facts. Aphorism 37. The doctrine of those who have denied that certainty could be attained at all has some agreement with my way of proceeding at the first setting out, but they end in being infinitely separated and opposed. For the holders of that doctrine assert simply that nothing can be known. I also assert that not much can be known in nature by the way which is now in use, but then they go on to destroy the authority of the senses and understanding, whereas I proceed to devise and supply helps for the same. Aphorism 38. The idols and false notions which are now in possession of the human understanding, and have taken deep root therein, not only so beset men's minds that truth can hardly find entrance, but even after entrance is obtained, they will again in the very instauration of the sciences meet and trouble us, unless men being forewarned of the danger fortify themselves as far as may be against their assaults. Aphorism 39. There are 4 classes of idols which beset men's minds. To these for distinction's sake I have assigned names, calling the first class idols of the tribe, the second idols of the cave, the third idols of the marketplace, the fourth idols of the theater. Aphorism 40. The formation of ideas and axioms by true induction is no doubt the proper remedy to be applied for the keeping off and clearing away of idols. To point them out, however, is of great use, for the doctrine of idols is to the interpretation of nature what the doctrine of the refutation of sophisms is to common logic. Aphorism 41. The idols of the tribe have their foundation in human nature itself, and in the tribe or race of men. For it is a false assertion that the sense of man is the measure of things. On the contrary, all perceptions as well of the sense as of the mind are according to the measure of the individual, and not according to the measure of the universe. And the human understanding is like a false mirror, which, receiving rays irregularly, distorts and discolors the nature of things by mingling its own nature with it. Aphorism 42. The idols of the cave are the idols of the individual man. For everyone, besides the errors common to human nature in general, has a cave or den of his own, which refracts and discolors the light of nature, owing either to his own proper and peculiar nature, or to his education and conversation with others, or to the reading of books, and the authority of those whom he esteems and admires, or to the differences of impressions, accordingly as they take place in a mind preoccupied and predisposed, or in a mind indifferent and settled, or the like. So that the spirit of man, according as it is meted out to different individuals, is in fact a thing variable and full of perturbation, and governed as it were by chance. Whence it was well observed by Heraclitus that men look for sciences in their own lesser worlds, and not in the greater or common world. Aphorism 43. There are also idols formed by the intercourse and association of men with each other, which I call idols of the marketplace, on account of the commerce and consort of men there. For it is by discourse that men associate, and words are imposed according to the apprehension of the vulgar, and therefore the ill and unfit choice of words wonderfully obstructs the understanding. Nor do the definitions or explanations wherewith in some things learned men are wont to guard and defend themselves by any means set the matter right. But words plainly force and overrule the understanding, and throw all into confusion, and lead men away into numberless empty controversies and idle fancies. Aphorism 44. Lastly, there are idols which have immigrated into men's minds from the various dogmas of philosophies, and also from wrong laws of demonstration. These I call idols of the theater, because in my judgment all the received systems are but so many stage plays, representing worlds of their own creation after an unreal and scenic fashion. Nor is it only of the systems now in vogue, or only of the ancient sects and philosophies that I speak, for many more plays of the same kind may yet be composed, and in like artificial manner set forth, seeing that errors the most widely different have nevertheless causes for the most part alike. Neither again do I mean this only of entire systems, but also of many principles and axioms in science, which by tradition, credulity, and negligence have come to be received. But of these several kinds of idols I must speak more largely and exactly, that the understanding may be duly cautioned. End of Aphorisms 1 to 44 of Book 1. Recording by Alan Shaw.